Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I'm very sorry that the recording sound may not be the best this episode. I'm having some issues with the recording device I'm using. So I hope you're going to be okay with it this episode. Then I promise it'll be fixed by tomorrow at max. Thank you again and have a good day. I've been metal detecting for as long as I can remember. There is something therapeutic about digging into the past and unearthing forgotten treasures. It's been my go-to hobby for the past 20 years, and I found some incredible items buried in the dirt. Little did I know that my passion would lead me to a confrontation with an entitled neighbor in our new Oklahoma City neighborhood. My family and I had just moved into a cozy little neighborhood, and as per my tradition, I couldn't resist the urge to pull out my trusty metal detector. I spotted my neighbor, an older woman who seemed friendly enough, and decided to ask for permission to dig in her yard. Hey neighbor, I was wondering if tomorrow I could do some metal detecting in your yard. I can even show you the items I dig up, I asked. The awesome neighbor responded with a warm smile saying, "Sure, I have always wondered what was in my yard. My dad used to do that, but he died before he had the chance. I'm working tomorrow, but you have my permission to dig as long as you fill in your holes." "No problem. I'm so sorry about your father," I replied, genuinely sympathetic. "It's okay. It's nice to meet our new neighbors anyways," she said. The next day, armed with my metal detector, I ventured next door and started detecting. I found several interesting items, including wheat, bag biddies, and silver dimes. It was shaping up to be a fruitful day until I heard a rude interruption through my headphones. "Hey, jerk!" I puffed my head up, removing my headphones to locate the source of aggression. A man whom I later learned was a crazy neighbor who was standing on the awesome neighbor's yard, fuming with anger. "I'm sorry, who are you, and why are you yelling at me like that?" I asked, genuinely confused. "If you don't get out of that property, I am calling the police. You're trespassing and destroying her property, you piece of crap," he shouted. I'm sorry, but first of all, I have permission to be here. You don't have any right to scream at me like that. If you need something, all you have to do is ask," I calmly replied. The crazy neighbor, ignoring my explanation, continued his tirade and even threatened physical harm. It was at this point I had to stand my ground. "You step any farther, and I'll exercise my right to defend myself," I warned him. "I'm calling the police. You're going to get arrested." "That's fine, go right ahead. I'll keep digging, and I will let the cops know you threatened to hit me," I said, unyielding. The crazy neighbor stormed off back to his house, and as if on cue, 2 police cars pulled up about 10 minutes later. "Excuse me, sir. We got a call from a neighbor that you're trespassing on private property," one of the officers said. "No, sir. I am sorry you had to waste your time for this. I got permission from my neighbor here to metal detect her yard yesterday." The crazy neighbor came outside, started cussing at me, and threatened to beat me without even asking if I had permission. Even after I told him I had permission, he still threatened me. I explained. "Is it that neighbor?" the officer asked, pointing across the street. "Yes, it was." I figured. He's a troublemaker. We get several calls from him quite often. Normally, we just tell people to pay no mind to him. If he causes any more trouble, just call us. "Why aren't y'all going to arrest him? He's trespassing," the crazy neighbor interjected. "We already talked to the awesome neighbor, and she gave him her permission. So there's been no crime committed here," the officer calmly stated. Crazy neighbor, not satisfied with this outcome, started cussing up a storm. Eventually, the officer had enough and decided to arrest him for disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, threatening physical harm, and making a false police report. After providing my statement and the whole ordeal settled down, the officers left with the crazy neighbor in tow. I didn't see him again outside his home, and it was a relief. On a positive note, amidst the chaos, I found the 1940s Cub Scout pin buried in a yard. As it turned out, it was the awesome neighbor's father's pin from his childhood. I carefully put it into a frame with a picture of the old 1940s Cub Scouts of America logo. When I showed it to the awesome neighbor, she couldn't hold back her tears and thanked me for bringing a piece of her father's childhood back to her. It was a heartwarming end to an unexpected adventure in our new neighborhood. My partner, 30 male, and I, 28 female, have been together for 4 years. Our lease is up at the end of this month and we were hoping to have purchased the house by now, but that didn't happen. So we decided to just renew our lease and keep the house hunt going. I've also had a very stressful year career-wise, so this fall, a few friends and I booked a girls' trip to Mexico for a yoga/wellness retreat. We're leaving next Thursday and we are all really looking forward to it. The week before Thanksgiving, my partner's dad unexpectedly passed away. My partner immediately flew out to be with his mom and siblings. He ended up staying there for Thanksgiving instead of coming home, which I completely understand. Due to the holiday and scheduling conflicts with other relatives, the funeral wasn't scheduled until the Friday after I leave for my trip. When he told me the date of the funeral, I reminded him that I would be gone. He asked if there was any way I could reschedule the trip or get a refund, and I told him I would look into it. But the trip was booked through a group rate and was 100% non-refundable. And none of my friends wanted to go through the hassle of rescheduling, which sucks, but I get it. I saved a lot of money to take this trip and really need the escape. If I cancel, I don't get the money back at all. I explained all of this to my partner and he asked me what I was going to do. I apologized and told him that I think I'm going to go on a trip because I don't want that money to go away for nothing. All of this was over the phone because he still was with his family, and he told me we would talk more when he got back. When he came back home, we talked more about it, and I apologized so many times when I was explaining why I was still going on a trip. He seemed to understand and told me it was fine. But when I asked him when we were going to sign the papers to renew our lease because I want that done before I leave, he said he's not going to do that anymore. He said that he came back to figure some things out at work and then he's flying back for the funeral and will be staying with his mom while they figure some things out. I asked him why he didn't talk to me about this first and he said that he's talking to me about it right now. He said his mom needs help, so he's going to stay with her. I asked him what am I supposed to do about a place to live and he told me to figure it out with my friends on our vacation. I told him that he's putting me in a bad situation here and that he seemed fine with me going on a trip and missing the funeral. He said he wasn't going to beg me to cancel my trip and that I made that decision on my own, so he's making this decision for himself. I told him he's being a jerk and should have talked to me about this first. He said I'm the one who prioritized drinking on a beach over being at his dad's funeral. So if anyone is a jerk here, it's me. And there was some comments on the post. Someone saying, you are the jerk. You made your bed when you prioritized your vacation over your partner. You shouldn't be surprised that he's prioritizing himself and his family over your housing concerns. This wasn't a short-term relationship. You guys were going to buy a house together. But when he really needed you, you cared more about yourself and your friends. In doing that, you showed him where he actually falls on your list of priorities. And it wasn't where he'd expected he'd land. So, he made some decisions for himself. You added to his pain and hurt in a time that you should have been the person helping to prop him up. Another commenter adds, you are the jerk. Your partner is going through what could possibly be one of the hardest times of his life. An unexpected death of a parent is absolutely horrifying and devastating shock. He's clearly grieving. You're his partner and needs you right now when, instead, you're taking a vacation. Trips can't happen anytime. This is a once-in-a-lifetime tragedy. If you really love him, you'll be there for him. The third commenter goes with, you are the jerk. Your partner of 4 years lost their parents. And you think it's more important to go on a vacation? You showed your priorities. They aren't your relationship. The fourth commenter adds, yeah, I'm gonna go with you're the jerk here. I understand that I don't want to waste the money part. I get it, but the dude just lost his father. Now you're calling him a jerk for not wanting to renew the lease with someone who wasn't there to support him in his time of need? I wouldn't blame him for 1 second. Was a trip worth throwing your relationship over for? I sure hope so. 'Cause that's what just happened. I must point out that this took place about 10 to 15 years ago. When I was in my early 20s, I was a manager at a movie theater chain. It was a great job with tons of awesome first experiences in my life. It was one of the first in the area that included a game room, restaurant, and a bar. I never thought there would be a problem with the bar. considering maximum movies were around 3 hours and usually people didn't want to leave the movie to grab refills and miss a key part of the movie. One evening, the last film already started. I was counting down drawers, sending the majority of the staff home, all except one young new usher whose job was to make sure there weren't any problems in the theaters and bid the guests a good night as they exited the theaters following the end of their movies. I was finishing the counting of the draws and doing final paperwork when the other manager asked to go home earlier. There hadn't been any reason to have more than one manager there when the night was pretty much over with. It wasn't a few minutes after the other manager had left. I got a call in the office asking me to come out, and as a few guests wanted to speak to me, when I came out from the rear of the concession counters, the usher, Joel, was standing there with these two elderly women. Sir, we would like to make a complaint here. There is a man in our theater that is yelling at his wife. We think he is drunk, and he seems like he's going to become abusive. That's about the gist of what they had said. Then proceeded to tell me that they asked their husbands to do something, but there was no such luck there. I told her I would take care of it. The ladies walked back off to the theater. I told my usher to come with me as I walked into the theater. I walked into the theater, didn't show myself, just sat in the hallway and listened for anything that seemed to be true. It didn't take long. A roar of a voice shouting at the woman for spilling the popcorn and yada yada, can't do anything right and so on. I appeared I was able to spot the guy. He stared right at me and didn't try to hide his feelings. What does this jerk want? I acted. Walked up the stairs and asked the guy if he could keep his voice down for the remainder of the movie. He blurted back, "I'll do as I damn well please." I stepped back a little by his reply and almost stepped on a floorboard that is filled with drink cups. I looked up to the husbands and they had a look of worry on their faces and turned back to the guy. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're disturbing others' experience." Panic set in as I had to no longer bend down to talk to him. I had to look up. A quiet look over to the usher who obviously no longer had my back and a look back to the gentleman. I am not going anywhere. A slight urge of fake confidence came as the elderly woman behind us shouted, "He's a manager. Do as he says." "Sir, you need to leave now. You're going to have to make me." "Well, if that's what I've got to do." The drunk puts down the cup, rolls up his sleeves, and before another second passes, I shout, "Not here. Outside." I demand. I turn around to walk past my usher before as a guy follows me and tell him to call the police. He hurries out and the guy walks out of the theater. He's pissed and I'm scared. The door shuts and he gets closer. I stop him and say, "It's got to be outside. I'm not getting fired for fighting on the property." I point to the nearest exit and he starts walking with an angry force and I head the same direction behind him, taking off my name badge and tie. The guy barges through the door. I run quickly behind him and shut the door. Thank goodness the door automatically locks. It takes him a minute to realize what just happened, and if this was a cartoon, steam would be flying out of his nose and ears as he starts hitting the glass door. He was doing it enough to crack it before the police arrived. Thankfully, we were by a police fill station, so we never had a problem with them taking too long. A little bit of that fake confidence turned genuine as the police arrived and the guy was put in handcuffs. I talked with the police for a little bit, handed over the video feed of him exiting the theater to walking outside. Waited until the movie had finished to inform his wife, who wasn't worried at all that he had gone to jail. She said upon leaving that he deserved a night in there and walked out to her car and left. The elderly women thanked me and left as well. I went back to the office, finished up my paperwork, left a note for the morning managers to watch the video of my heroism, locked everything up, and I headed home.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.